Raise your hand if you're tired of Luke Skywalker showing up in every single Star Wars. Thank you, Brian.
How in the world do Hutts procreate? The whole idea is really confusing to me.
Welcome to the Council of Nerds.
The Council of Nerds.
They are hermaphrodites, actually. At least at one point, I read that they were hermaphrodites. So I really don't know. But yeah, welcome to the Council of Nerds.
Bienvenue.
We are back.
We're one nerd short today.
We are.
Our boy Dan has got down with the sickness. So
I am
I
sick
hate
too.
myself.
I am sick too, but not. I think Dan was saying he's got more of a cough, and he doesn't want to be coughing in the microphone the whole time. So
He doesn't want to shatter the ASMR. So,
yeah.
but yeah, we are the Council of Nerds. Please give us a like and a follow and all that beautiful stuff. We're on anywhere you can find podcasts, namely Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, as well as YouTube. We do have a Discord as well, the Council of Nerds Discord. Link can be found in the bio of our Instagram account, where we post some fire memes and get into some decent arguments about recent things in Star Wars. So we're going to talk about all things Mando season finale today.
Yes.
So.
Before we get to that, this is not a sponsorship or an advertisement, but I just wanted to, if anybody, I don't know, have you ever heard of like lo-fi beats? Like they're like chill. It's like chill music just to like relax,
Lo-fi?
basically. Yeah. Oh, lo-fi. I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Like hi-fi and lo-fi?
Yeah. So it's that, but it's I found one that's a Star Wars edition, and it is super cool and super good. All the songs on the playlist are by somebody called Closed on Sunday. But it's really cool. Like all of the songs are Star Wars. They have one from Clone Wars. They have one. They have like a couple of the Cantina Band ones.
Nice.
But they're really good. So if you want to listen to those, they're on Spotify at least. I don't know if they're on Apple Music or anything.
Not a sponsor.
No, not at all.
Reach out to us.
Hey man, you want to make a sick beat for us, please?
That would be so dope.
Yeah. All right. So this week was the season finale of The Mandalorian season 2. We were dumb and we didn't know it was the season finale. I thought we had one more episode. We did not.
Yeah.
I have a very unpopular opinion, as per usual, on this episode, I guess. I had a very unpopular opinion, according to people
I
on
do
Instagram.
agree with your opinion, just not as vehemently. I'm not as passionate about it because I think that there is a better outcome than what is going to happen, but I agree with your opinion.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
I have calmed down. I just want to say that. I instantly hated it. Not from the get-go of the episode, but at a certain moment in the episode. By the way, there will be spoilers in this podcast, so if you don't, just go watch this show. Anyway, yeah, I was mad. I lost a lot of faith in the Star Wars people. And Dave Filoni broke my heart, Jon Favreau. But really, I feel somewhat alone in that. I mean, I know a lot of people who agree with me, but man, I got wrecked on Instagram. I didn't get wrecked, actually, but I got people, like so many people on Instagram, just telling me how wrong I was, but not telling me why. But we'll get to that. So, starting out, this episode, like I said, I have calmed down. The episode wasn't that bad. Now that I've thought about it and everything, it wasn't a terrible episode, but there is a part at the end that was enough to make me just hate the whole episode, and in a way kind of hate the whole season. And it brought up a bunch of complaints I've had, but
and complaints that you have said very early on in this season while doing this podcast that you would have, and you are now airing those grievances. So I will give you credit where credit is due in terms of The issues that you have are issues that you said point blank, if this happens, I'm not going to like it.
Yep.
So at least you've been saying that from not day one, but very early on in the season.
Since it was
When
a
it was
possibility to
obvious,
happen.
yes,
Yeah.
since it was a possibility that was a possible sequence of events.
Now,
But like Logan said, the episode itself,
not bad.
I mean, for the most part, I found very interesting. There were some sequences that I thought were, even by Star Wars standards, bothered me in terms of realism. This episode finally highlighted the battle readiness of the Dark Troopers, which
Kind of.
were those droids that we saw in the previous episode that took Grogu and flew away. And we're going to jump to ahead in the episode, but the fact that apparently these things are so strong that they can punch through blast doors on this is a Star Cruiser. This isn't like, I don't know, your mama's fifth wheel.
It's not the freaking
that's
Tashi station, you know, on Tatooine.
Like, this is a battle ready and military issued Star Traveler, and these things are legit just punching through blast doors.
Look,
I didn't like it. It bothered the heck out of me. I get it, but I felt like I was like, nope.
I didn't even think about that, but now that you mention it, yeah. And I want to put that into perspective. Star Wars Episode 1, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi are on given it's not the same ship, and we can make all those arguments, but if you're that nerdy to know what material each ship uses, you're crazy anyway. So, but
I'm sure you're out there.
Yeah. But Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn are on a Trade Federation, I don't know, shuttle ship, whatever. It wasn't a shuttle, but like a big,
it's like a diplomatic ship, but it also has military.
Almost like a base.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's blast doors that are closed, and they use Qui-Gon Jinn uses his lightsaber to start trying to get through. It took him forever to do that with a lightsaber. So these guys can just punch through it in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it took them like 30 seconds, and they're almost all the way through until the person we didn't want to show up shows up. But
yeah,
that bothered me.
I also want to say, we totally jumped ahead right there. We're gonna backtrack.
Yes,
and I also want to say
that
we are going to end on pros of the episode. We will not end on cons, because I want it to be at least more positive, even though I'm not very positive about this episode. And all the fanboys are going to come after me. And I don't say fanboys in a good term, like the movie fanboys. I say that as a bad term, as in people who can't think for themselves when it comes to a fan base. Take offense,
anything.
By the way.
Please do.
Yeah.
We're not here to make friends. What?
But please continue to listen to our podcast, because we need all the viewers that we can get. Okay, so I do want to say, starting out, my friend made note of this when I talked to him about the episode the other day. I think the day it came out. And he made a really good point. And this is kind of, he compared it to the Game of Thrones final season, which seemed to they had all these all of the sudden they're here, and it's like, whoa, that would have taken weeks, but all of the sudden they're there, they're transporting basically. So and what he made the comparison to Mandalorian is, all of the sudden they know where Dr. Pershing is and his shuttle, and they're in space and they're there. It's just kind of really random. It's like, how did they know where Pershing was? And I get that. So that's fine. It was just weird. I don't know. And what happened to Dr. Pershing? Because, so to put into context for people, Dr. Pershing is on an Imperial shuttle with 2 Imperial pilots.
One of them is a total tool. I gotta say.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Very punchable face. I would say. And so on Slave One, there's Mando, Boba, Fennec, Cara Dune, Bo-Katan, and that other Mandalorian chick that I always
I don't
forget
know
her
her
name.
name. The one
I
from the previous episode.
I literally read it today and I totally forgot, so forgive me on that one. But so they're on that ship, they're chasing this shuttle, and then they like take it down pretty easy because Boba Fett, Slave One, and they get on there,
Unit.
and like Pershing's there, and they basically were trying to capture Pershing, to basically find a layout of Gideon's ship, and that guy was such a tool. He was so annoying. But they're
Do you think they were looking for Pershing specifically, or do you think they just found a shuttle that was going to the airspace they were going to
that
and
is a good
figured
point.
this transport probably has some kind of details we could be? Because I don't know necessarily that they were looking specifically for Pershing, because they say because the two guys on the plane, okay, this guy's a cloner or whatever, like they say that to them, and it doesn't seem like they're like, yeah, we know, that's why we're here. I think that was my impression, is that
Yeah, that's a
when
good
I think
point.
about it, it doesn't necessarily seem like their mission was Pershing, but more the plans, like the more in-depth understanding of the ship's interior that they were going against.
Yeah, that's a good point, but also at the same time, to
It's
me,
also weird that it was Pershing, though.
yeah,
Like,
it's also there's that, but then there's also like they didn't seem surprised that Pershing was there, and it's not like Mando's never seen Pershing, like he would be like,
right, but the
"Oh, I know you."
last time he saw Pershing was in season 1, and he was just a random, kind of seemed like a total dweeby scientist guy. So
Right,
it's
but
like,
Mando doesn't forget a face, especially where his relationship began with Baby Yoda, right?
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I just feel like, you know, I in a good episode, I don't know. In a good episode, I feel like they would at least have Mando be like, "Yeah, I remember you. Like you're familiar," or something like that, and
You're that guy.
just kind of mention that, like,
Yeah.
especially if it like wasn't supposed to be them chasing Pershing. I don't know. Anyway, they figure out all the plans, but once they get on, they make a plan and all this stuff. There's a lot of details in there, but they get on to Gideon's starship thing. Now Pershing just disappears at that point. Like we never see Pershing
He
again.
gone.
Did they just like
He gone.
throw him out of the ship or something? Who knows?
And just out the
Kind of a plot hole in my
poop
opinion.
tube. Just
Not really a plot hole, but just kind of a hole. Um,
I didn't know. To be honest, I hadn't thought about that. He just kind of drop
Yeah.
off the map, doesn't he?
And it was kind of weird. I don't know. I thought Pershing was actually kind of an interesting character in this series, but that's fine. Another thing, so for people who don't know, I have a very long cons list in front of me that I wrote the day the episode came out, and then a very small pros list. So I'm kind of going through that. It's kind of in order. There are some things that aren't. Another thing is, why didn't Boba just come back? So when they all get onto Gideon's ship, Boba was like a distraction in Slave One. He was pretending to chase them so that they could pretend that they were Imperials to get on the ship. A classic Star Wars thing.
Right, which doesn't work. That
No.
is like, well, at least Gideon automatically is like, yeah, no.
Yeah, which is
Like-
also weird to me. It's like, why didn't Gideon just shoot them down? That would have solved all his problems. That's fine, I guess. But they get on the ship anyway, and then Boba leaves. And then they're like, "Oh, we'll call you when we need a pickup," or something like that. And but
Yeah.
Boba never comes back. I was like, why can't Boba just come and fight? Like we all want to see Boba,
Yeah,
so why can't he come back and fight?
wasn't in his contract.
I
Just
guess
kidding.
not. But it was in Phoenix.
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah.
It'd be like Han sending in Chewie and then flying away. That's not
Yeah.
gonna happen. Like,
Just give me a call when you need a pickup, buddy.
yeah, I'll be around. I'm just gonna take a lap, and I'll come back when you got this
Yeah.
whole Star Destroyer thing
I'll go
taken
get
care
some.
of.
I'll go get some spice. Maybe take a few hits of that, and then we'll be back on track.
Get some blue milk. I'll come
Yeah.
back. It'll be great.
Maybe Emperor has some leftovers. Oh wait,
Ugh.
she's burned alive. Okay,
Who's the
so
hottest couple in Star Wars? Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
They are. Who else had a longer lasting marriage than them?
Well, I mean, literally the hottest because
Oh,
they got burned alive.
oh. So that went right over my head, even though I just said it.
Like, I know that's why I said it, because you brought it up.
Dang.
Oh, I do. I just want to add this, just because I'm proud of myself. I have only once in my life taken someone through their first time watching all of Star Wars, and I'm having the amazing experience of doing it yet again. Just recently watched A New Hope with this young man who had not ever seen any of the Star Wars, and we're gonna watch all the Star Wars movies, and I love doing that. I love
So what's your
showing
order?
people
What order do you use?
the Vader path 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, and then you
The
sprinkle
classic
in.
path. Really.
Yeah, you sprinkle in Rogue One and Han Solo if you want to. I don't know if that to get the whole continuity, you just do those, But I would say the classic route is the route that I prefer.
I actually
'Cause it
like
just
that
doesn't-
classic route more.
Yeah, it just doesn't. For me, it's you should enjoy it the way everyone else did. You
Well,
should
not
you
everyone,
should
but yeah,
consume it the way that
the good
someone who was
ones.
born in the 70s or whatever, the way that they enjoyed it as a kid, they had to wait until those ones came out, and so that's how we're doing it. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just wanted. I'm
No, yeah,
excited, and
that's
it's
good.
gonna be good.
That's actually really fun to do. And before people get on my back about being pretty negative on this episode, nobody's gonna get on my back. It's already happened. But the main reason I think I'm so this episode this season, when I've talked, I've been pretty negative about this season, kind of in general, and it's all kind of because of an over-the-top fan service, I would say. I love fan service. I really do. Season 1, the big fan service episode was when, which actually is now not really a fan service episode now that I think of it because it's played into season 2. But it was the Tatooine episode, right? When Mando first goes to Tatooine. But this season has been such a freaking marketing platform for Disney and a complete fan service for no reason.
Can I just say that I was super bummed that they didn't go and get Cobb Vanth to help them?
Right?
Like
Everybody loved him.
Right. I was like, you made this buddy for no reason?
To be fair, he
I
wasn't a
think-
great fighter without that armor.
Well, still,
I know.
like he's
They
a
coulda-
marshal. He's got to do something.
They
like,
could have killed him off or something. Like in this episode, they could have killed him, given him like a heroic death or something. That would have been cool.
Yeah, he's the one who dives in front of Gideon's blaster bolt that saves
Oh.
Grogu's life, and he,
That part was good.
gets axed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no,
Yeah. And then yeah. So moving on. So they do a bit of a girl power group thing in this episode. Wasn't too cringy.
they do that, which is fine.
Which is fine. I've seen way more cringy girl power things in movies that I'm like, really? Like, girls can be cool. Like, you don't have to make it like this obvious girl power thing. So they did all right with that in this episode. I didn't mind it, especially since it's Cara Dune and Fennec and Bo-Katan and then that other
Bo-Katan.
man. Yeah, so it's like all these girls are pretty bad anyway. They mow through stormtroopers, which is a
It was
common
beautiful.
occurrence in the Star Wars universe. But I will say, and my friends made note of this too, mowing through stormtroopers is a typical thing, right? We get it. Stormtroopers kind of suck at their job. But also, that's actually one thing I really loved about Rogue One was it was
They
kind of
struggled.
yeah, it was difficult. Like rebels died from stormtroopers shooting them, and it wasn't easy, and that was cool. We haven't really seen that since.
Oh, it's like that and I feel like you get that in the original trilogy, like the opening scene of A New Hope when
Yeah.
Vader comes onto that ship and all the rebels are just getting completely executed. Like, it's not as visceral as it feels in Rogue One, but at least in the original trilogy, they gave this air of mortality to this fight, and that it was almost a losing battle.
Agreed.
A lot of the time, the underdog feeling. Whereas I feel like in the prequels, I mean, the Jedi kind of have it well in hand for the vast majority of all of that. And there's some, they do show some death and some of that with that, but far less than I felt like they did in the original trilogy. And I think that what couples that is that it wasn't practical a lot of the time, and so that didn't feel quite as real.
Yeah.
And I would say I felt like I saw even less death in the sequel trilogy. I feel like the small group of the resistance they had, I feel like I didn't see a whole lot of them really
Yeah,
going down too much. And maybe that's a little bit of that Disney shine they're trying to put on it to make
yeah.
it less,
I was about to say.
more kid friendly.
I was about to say that
Um,
the sequel trilogy is a whole different level of criticism that we could go into.
yeah. But I mean, but in the prequels, you did have Obi-Wan Kenobi slicing Darth Maul in half. So, hey, we had some stuff there.
Yeah, and Anakin cutting off Dooku's head and other
Do
things.
it.
Yeah. Now let's.
Sorry, back to the
Yeah.
topic at
So
hand.
so we already touched on this. The Dark Troopers. Dark Troopers were such an overhyped thing. They were
I
not as cool as they
agree.
should have been.
Um, I think, but I kind of found it funny. Like, and I
Yes
don't know if that
and
was the
no.
intention,
Kind of
but like the
predictable.
fact that they just kind of got slurped out into space really, but I don't know if that was the intention. And that's what bothers me. Is
Yeah.
like if it's something that's supposed to be blatantly funny, I should know, and I should know if it's not. But I made me go, but it's the
Huh.
same way that like Flash Gordon makes me go, when it's really, really bad. Like it's
Yeah.
just not.
Well, I
So
mean, it's also like I can see your point on that, but for me it was also obviously predictable what was going to happen.
sure,
Like,
yes,
oh, like they're not that stupid to be like,
right,
"Oh, these amazing dark troopers, just have them get sucked out and we'll have them fight one of them. They'll never come back." It's like they're obviously going to come back. Like they're
right.
robots, they don't die in space and they have like rockets to like get
They
pack
have
them back.
Iron Man feet, which
Yeah.
Dan had a hard time with
Yeah.
apparently.
But I will say, like, the fight was decent, right, between Mando and that one Dark Trooper. But it was just
hmm
like, I don't know.
I thought his helmet was gonna dent or something. I
That
was
was
like,
cool. I liked
like
his head being shoved into that metal wall. That was
yeah,
cool. But I think for me, it was more of an underwhelming moment because I had read about the Dark Troopers in
yeah,
Legends before this show came out with Dark Troopers, and they were always pretty cool to me. Um, and so it was like, oh man, yes, like this is so cool seeing them like canonically now and in action and doing stuff. And then like the only scenes we've really gotten haven't done anything.
yeah.
Um,
Hasn't it's been fairly underwhelming, but
yeah,
they do have a chance of using them in the future. I'm sure that wasn't the only Dark Troopers that they had. You know what I mean? Like, so possibly comes back later. I would prefer
maybe
if they
though.
didn't.
We
I'd
can
prefer if they
actually
didn't.
can discuss this. Will they come back? Will they? We'll discuss this at the end because it's something I actually have noted. Um, well, and then moving on to other underwhelming things. Moff Gideon was so weak. Such a weak fight. Um, Now, before I did have a friend who said, well, like, aren't all like Moffs pretty weak though? And I was like,
Yeah,
I mean, yes, but also like Thrawn was a Moff and Thrawn kicked butt. Like that dude
yeah.
could fight. And
Yeah, he was an exception to the rule though, and he also went to Grand Admiral. Like he went like to the
true.
tippity tops, but that man comes from a whole different like he's a different well clearly he's a
Right.
different species, but like a whole even to a further extent in terms of tactical strength and physical strength, he's just a whole different thing.
Now, I'm not saying Thrawn isn't awesome because I love Thrawn,
Yeah, no,
but
right.
Thrawn didn't have the dark saber.
Nope. No,
So
he did not.
that's why I'm like Gideon should
He
have
had a
at least been
he
able
had a
to fight.
dinky little pistol blaster that reminds me of the cricket from Men in Black, and then he had his freaking
Mm,
fists.
that's a pretty good
Like
comparison.
he has like it's a really dinky little
It
like
is.
pew! Like
Pew, pew.
it's not this like some
It's
like
not a rifle.
Han's pistol is freaking huge
Yeah.
like compared to this guy. But I agree. I did think the fight was interesting
Yeah.
in terms of watching the Beskar steel and a saber clash. I thought it was interesting that the steel got hot like
That was
that.
cool. I
I
did
think
like that.
I think that there was interesting things. I think the fight, like you said, was weak and not a. But part of me, here's my only thing, felt like it was intentional, and that he lost the fight on purpose to f with Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
because there's that whole thing where he's like, "Oh no, you have to win it from her," and like does that whole mind game bull crap trying to get Bo-Katan to like right there on the spot kill Mando, and we'll get into that a little bit down the line. But so part of me feels like maybe he kind of just rolled over on it, you know,
That's an interesting take. I mean,
because maybe for the first 30 seconds he's like, maybe I can beat this guy, and then he went, nope, that's not gonna go my way, and then he started being pussy
mischievous.
boy.
Yeah.
But
Well, to kind of get into that with the whole Bo-Katan, Mandalorian, Din Djarin contention.
yeah,
First of all, that part was a little weird to me because Moff Gideon was like playing like this shoulder devil kind of guy.
yeah.
I
So
don't know
for
if you
those
noticed
who
that.
either haven't seen it or need more context, because Mando beat Gideon in battle while he was wielding the Darksaber, Mando now, a la the Elder Wand, because he's won in battle and now possesses that weapon, and by extension has now the best claim to the throne of Mandalore, which doesn't make a certain Bo-Katan super stoked. So that's why they're having this moment, and Moff Gideon's basically just trying to get them to eat each other
But it was
so that
filmed
he can
weird
get
with
away.
this whole
Yeah,
like devil on the shoulder thing. Like he was like, it seemed like he was like popping up like behind Mando's ear, and he's
just
like,
take it. Oh no, you
just
can't do
yeah, it
that.
was
Like,
like, it was kind of weird, but I don't know. I do actually want to get into that whole tradition of the dark saber with the
yeah,
Mandalorians because personally I instantly was like, yes, that is like the written rule or whatever, right? But
yeah,
Sabine Wren just hands Bo the saber,
right.
and
And she
she's
goes,
like,
thanks.
yeah, she's
She
like,
doesn't have
thank
an
you.
issue with it then. Like,
And people have made the argument like because I'm pretty sure Gideon says in his little dialogue, his monologue of being a little shoulder devil, he says like he basically says something around the lines of since it's like the second time or it's like yeah, I think it's because of it depends on the person how the person got it. Like the person who has it, how they got it depends on how you have to get it or something like that. It's really weird. To me it was just dumb because it was like, hey, but like if that is the case, right?
just
He does have
just
to
be
fight
consistent.
her. Yeah, be consistent, but also like if he does have
Like,
to
oh
fight
no, I
her,
lost the fight. Ah,
yeah,
like,
like punch Mando in the face really fast, Bo, and then he was like, "Here, I yield it." Like he did yield it in the show. So like, why didn't she just be like, "Hold on, let me punch you really quick," so it was a fight, and then I got it.
right. It's because Gideon's making it sound like you have to fight her to the death. Like you're
Yeah,
clearly alive right now, and
yeah,
I have the dark saber. So
exactly.
that's not how it has to work either.
Because like I do know like in Clone Wars when Maul gets this is a total spoiler
From
alert.
from pre Vizsla, yeah.
Right, he gets it from Pre Vizsla. They fight to the death, but that's also because it's Maul. He's not gonna keep the dude alive, and
And that's also they were fighting in context over the throne
the actual
specifically,
literal
not
throne.
just for the saber. And they have that moment where they say only the strong shall rule, and then Maul takes off his head. So like
So cool.
there, it was awesome.
Yeah,
Like if you guys haven't watched the Clone
that's a
Wars,
top-notch Star Wars battle
like
right there.
so good.
Yeah,
Like y'all are handicapping yourself to the umpteenth level if you haven't watched Rebels, and more importantly for me, Clone Wars.
I love Rebels, dude. Anyway,
Um. So
um,
yeah, and it was weird that no one else was participating in the conversation. Like no one, like the other Mando chick, not saying anything. Kind of was like, "Why aren't you should? I feel like you should be invested
I
in this
know.
conversation."
Shouldn't you be like, look, I'll turn a blind eye. Just he yields it. I'll pretend that you fought. You got
Something.
the throne. We're good
And
here.
and why isn't Kara or Fennec being defensive of the fact that this guy's now saying that this Mandalorian has to basically kill this guy now? Like that's like why isn't Cara Dune being more like you better back up? That's my boy.
Yeah,
Like I felt like it was just a very
it was weird.
weirdly isolated conversation. It was like
It was
this is an A and B conversation, so see your way out of it, and
it,
everyone just kind of
it was weird and
sat
just
there.
like and just like unexplained. You know,
Yeah.
like I would understand it all if they were like, "Oh, but here's the rules to the T." You know what I mean? Like there's no back and
Yeah.
forth on it. This is how it has to be. But
If
like,
they had taken a second, made the episode an hour long, taken 5 minutes to explain the backstory of the Darksaber.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this was created this, whatever time ago and has always been passed down through battle, blah blah blah. And like went through something that made it have that, oh, but now it's just, oh no, you can't do it that way. You have to do it this way. And it's like, okay, but if you had never watched Star Wars, knew nothing about anything, and just watched that clip with Gideon, you'd be thinking that guy was making that crap up on the spot. That's how it came across to me.
Yeah,
Is that
because he's a
he
liar. I mean,
wasn't right. He's conniving. He's a manipulator, but at the same time, he wasn't very convincing. Like
no, yeah.
it seemed like he was like, nope, not no, that doesn't work. Like, like just like throwing crap out there, and so that I don't.
It
It
was
was a
weird.
weird. The whole episode had a muted tone compared to even just the episode where they're on that ice planet and those. The whole episode is just them fending off those spider things. I
But
can't remember the name.
that episode made sense. It was a good filler episode
Right.
that made
And there was
sense.
passion in the episode
Yeah,
with the way it played out, and this whole episode just felt like it kind of
it was rushed.
it. I didn't. It wasn't the top shelf that I had come to expect.
Which brings me to the I believe the coup de grace. That's a thing, right? The coup de
Yes,
grace
yeah.
of cons for me. And in which I got in many arguments on Instagram with, and I just want to say it wasn't with our podcast Instagram, it was with my personal
No.
one because I'm not stupid, um, and but yeah, the coup de grace was so. Let's put this into context, actually. So they're on the ship. They have Gideon down for the count. Well, he's not like down. He's like awake and talking and stuff, but he's in cuffs. But the Dark Troopers come back, like from space, and they're on the ship, and they're making their way to the
Making my way
bridge.
downtown.
It's
Sorry.
exactly the song they should have played. They're just like marching, and it's like making my way downtown, walking. And then so they're like, oh crap, like close the blast doors because they're on the bridge, all of them, like in the where the captain is usually. And
Gideon has a "that won't help you" moment where he just curls his mustache on the side, like
he like pets his white cat. Yeah, and they close the blast doors. The Dark Troopers can't get in, so they just like two of them start punching the blast doors and making like decent dents really quickly, making their way through a blast door with their fist. And yeah,
We've already discussed that, so I'm just gonna move past it.
yeah, and then the music happens, right? It's like this. It's the moment we were all basically waiting for. We all knew was coming, which was hinted at the episode where little baby Yoda Grogu is calling for a Jedi, signaling for a Jedi to come help him or whatever, right? Or come train him. And everyone's waiting to see who the Jedi is. Now, I just want to make another point here. Why do we have to put Jedi on everything?
Yeah, it's fair.
Like I have many complaints with this whole thing. So there's one thing, it's like it could have been any other Jedi and I would have been happier. And then there's a complaint of like, but like we didn't have to have a Jedi at all. You know? Like there's just that too.
Okay, this is totally off topic, but it's Star Wars related. But that's why I was super excited for the game Star Wars 1313. I don't know if you remember that game coming out, but 1313 is the lowest sub level on Coruscant. That's the lowest level it goes down.
Right.
It's 1313, right? And that's where the poorest of the poor and most crime is at that low point.
Right.
And the story of the game was surrounded around this guy who was nothing, and he rises up to be, I think, a bounty hunter, I think was the concept. And EA ended up scrapping it, which
Oh,
super.
right,
Actually, I
right.
think Disney scrapped the project when they
Yeah,
bought
I remember that.
LucasArts, and I was super bummed because the whole concept was you building wealth and notoriety and climbing and climbing and climbing until you get to the top side of Coruscant, and then you move forward with your life. And that for me, I was like, no Jedi, dope.
It
Like,
creates a more like relatable world almost
yeah,
in the Star Wars universe. You know, like none of us can be Jedi. None
right.
of us will know what it feels like to be a Jedi.
I
And
can
so
dream, Logan.
and so like being part of this underground, speaking of the 1313 thing, it's like it's a little more relatable. Like it's not like we're from the slumps or like we live in like this dark underworld of a
Yeah,
city, you know, but it's a little more relatable. We don't
I
have
live in
powers.
Utah County. I don't
Yeah.
like. I'm not. Like, I'm
Right.
not.
But yeah, yeah. Anyway, so the Jedi shows up. Okay, I'm gonna. We all knew from well, I knew from this moment, right? An X-wing flies by, and
Which how did okay, maybe it's because he can sense Grogu's presence, but they had to go through so many loops to find this ship and where it's at, and then he just shows up.
I'm just gonna say the one excuse I usually use with stuff like this is the Force.
I know, but
I
that's
know.
such a cop out.
No,
Like,
yeah, I know. But actually, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go with. I'm just gonna say the
yeah,
Force. Anyway,
yep.
so an X-wing flies by, and in my head, I'm like, dang it. Like I know what it is. I know who it is. Like I don't, but I do. And then I'm like holding on to this hope that it's not this specific Jedi and that it's this other one just for my brain's sake. Um and then he gets out and he starts just annihilating all these dark troopers. So once again, a complete underwhelming performance from the dark troopers who come on, like at least like they're dark troopers. They could take on a jet. I mean, the freaking battle droids from the Clone Wars were some of the weakest things in the world, and they were killing Jedi in Star Wars Episode 2. You know, like, these are dark troopers, for crap's sake. Anyway, he's mowing through these dark troopers. It's a green lightsaber, so again, I'm like, great, it is who I think it is, but I don't want it to be, so I'm just gonna. There's another Jedi who's also green lightsaber. And then, um, and then we have he keeps fighting and then I see he has a glove on his right hand, and that's where I'm just like, okay, it's who it is. And then he gets to the bridge there, and it's Luke. Um and we all know it's Luke, and it's younger Luke Skywalker, and I was just like completely bummed. So that for me was just
Yeah.
all right. So sorry, we had technical difficulties a little bit, so this is probably cut in the editing and everything. But anyway, we were talking about Luke showing up, which is a complete disappointment to me. Very, very strong disappointment for me, and a disappointment for, at least from what Brian was saying, a disappointment to him as well. Now
Yeah.
this is a
I was hoping that they would have gone with someone different, but
yeah. I mean, and another apologies to people because of our technical difficulties. There might be a small delay between me and Brian. We don't know why. But anyway, we're just gonna finish this off really quick. So Luke is a big disappointment to me because I'm so sick and tired of the Skywalkers. I'm sick of them. We don't need them. They're done. That's what episode 9 was for. It's over. Stop it. We don't need them anymore. Get them out of here. And it was just like, I get it makes sense, right? A lot of people trash on me because it makes sense. It does, like timeline wise and everything. It does make sense. And then also, you know, playing to the fans as well. There's a lot of people who watch the show and they don't know much about. They don't know Ezra. They don't know Cal Kestis. It just makes sense to put Luke in there, I guess. But also, we don't need a Jedi. Period. As simple as that for me. I hate Luke. I've never liked Luke. Luke is a weak kid who barely has done anything. He really is a failure as a Jedi, if you ask me. and you can make the argument, well, he's he's the first domino that fell to push, the rebellion to win or whatever. Yeah, but he also would have died in the desert because some sand people freaking hit him over the head, and they would have gotten him if Obi-Wan didn't show up. Simple. Like, he didn't do anything. If he wouldn't have blown up the first Death Star if Han didn't show up to save his butt. Like, he would have been shot down by Vader.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Luke is weak. He's an overrated character that people, the Star Wars community, deem him as like this god in the Star Wars world. It's like, and this is nothing against Mark Hamill at all, but Luke sucks. Like, he's just not cool. He's just, stop saying that he's like the coolest Jedi, because he's really not. He's super whiny. Like, I like Kylo Ren's character more than I like Luke, and like Kylo Ren's like a goth. He's like a gothy, whiny teenager, but that's literally what Luke was to me. But like a more loser version of that. Like, at least Kylo Ren was a goth. Like at least he had that going for him.
He knew who he was.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't like him. He's weak. He's lame. I don't know. I have it's just a whole thing for me. I don't like him.
There's a whole drinking game just watching through the original trilogy that you drink every time Luke whines. So, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Honestly, I mean, it's just, I would have liked Ezra. I understand other people don't know him, but like, we didn't know Grogu or Baby Yoda. We didn't know Cara Dune. It's just, you're introducing a new character. You could do it like that. But then,
Bo-Katan.
yeah, I mean, Ahsoka Tano. Those people don't know who Ahsoka is.
Right.
It's simple. Just don't bring in Luke. There's no need. And then that brings me to another complaint with Luke is, so for people who don't know or aren't going to watch it or are okay with spoilers, Mando gives Grogu, or Baby Yoda for people who complain about all that, to Luke to take with him to, I guess, train to be a Jedi. Now, I thought of this instantly watching the show. Why would you give him to Luke? I get like as the people writing the story of the show. So Grogu's gonna die. Like, we all know what happens to Luke's academy. I mean, Kylo Ren destroys it and kills all the Jedi, and Luke's the only survivor. So are we just like, all right, Grogu's done? And I mean, the way they ended this episode kind of felt like they're like, all right, this story's over. Like, we're moving on to another story.
Yeah.
And that's why I said earlier in our episode here, I was like, is this, like, are we going to see the Dark Troopers again? Because to me, it kind of felt like, and this plays into there was a post-credit scene for people, a very cool one. It was the best part of the entire episode.
Very good one.
And
Yep.
we won't describe it yet. We'll do that really quickly, but it has to do with Boba, and it was basically like a marketing strategy for Disney to introduce a new, well, we don't know. It's either a new TV series called The Book of Boba Fett.
Or a new season.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, it kind of felt like, because, and here's why, the show, The Mandalorian they're not episodes, they're chapters. And so to me, it's almost like this was a book. This little story was about Mando and Grogu. And then Grogu goes with Luke. The end. Now we're moving on to the next book called The Book of Boba Fett.
The Book of Boba.
And we're going to go through 16 chapters of this story about Boba Fett. And then when that ends, a new book, right? So that's where I'm like, it's kind of a lame way to end that story. I mean, Grogu's dead. Awesome. We all love this little baby so much, but we all know he's going to get completely slaughtered by the Knights of Ren, and that happened. And it's just like, dumb. I don't know. I if that is the case, that's stupid to me. But to let people know, I am pumped for this Book of Boba Fett.
Heck yeah, man.
I mean, dude, and I also want to say, like, back in the day, like, or when Disney kind of first bought stuff, everyone was like, oh, we want a Boba Fett series or a Boba Fett movie or something. And I was like, I mean, like, yeah, it'd be cool, but also like maybe we just move on to new things, kind of thing. But now that I've seen Tamora Morrison as Boba Fett, I'm like, heck yeah, give me Boba Fett. I'm like, yeah, dude, like,
I want it. I
give
need it.
me a
Take my
series.
money.
Yeah, I mean, it's too good to pass up at this point. I don't know, Brian, do you want to give your feelings on Luke, and then maybe also describe that post-credit scene?
Yeah, so I didn't have as strong of a negative reaction to Luke, only because and the one saving grace of that moment for me was that, like Logan said, it felt like an ending, and it felt like Luke showed up, grabbed the kid, left, and that there wouldn't be more of it, and that would made it okay for me, because at least it wouldn't be turning into the Luke Skywalker show.
Ugh.
um and I couldn't stand that. Like, I the Skywalker saga is great. It's what birthed all of us into loving Star Wars, and for a lot of us started our nerddom as a whole, and I appreciate that so much. But I never watched Star Wars, the original trilogy, for Luke. Never did
Mm-mm.
and never will. He's the character I make fun of the most.
But I was gonna go to
He's
Tashi
the
Station pick up some
character
power converters.
I like. He calls an R6 unit an R2 unit, and I mean, he should be punished for that. But there's just so many different, like, I watch it for Han, and I watch it for Chewie because I love Chewie. I even
Leia.
I would watch an R2D2 show before I watched a Luke Skywalker show. And all he does is go beep boop bop, and I love it, and I think it's great, and I think it has personality. You know who doesn't have personality? Luke Skywalker. And again, like Luke was talking, or like damn it, like
Don't
Logan
you
was talking
dare.
about. Sorry. uh it's not a dig on Mark Hamill. The guy has done some great work. I may not agree with everything he always says as a human being, but he has done great work that I love and I appreciate. He has given a new meaning to the Joker for me in my life, and
Mm.
so many other things he's been involved with. It's just this Luke is not great, and that's okay. So for me, it was, yeah, okay, it makes sense, and then it was great. He's gone. And then that post credit scene popped up, right? So I hit the credits and I'm like, there's no pictures.
Yeah, that was weird.
That's what threw me. I was like, where's the concept art? What the freak? And then I turned the episode off because that's what I'm used to doing when I get to the credits on these episodes. And then I realized that there's just, I'm watching on my phone at 2 in the freaking morning because I couldn't sleep, and I realized there's just a skosh more left on this episode than every other episode on the list of watched episodes. And I was like, there's a post credit scene. So I go back in, and I am so happy that I did, because I've talked to a lot of people actually, and they're like, "Wait, there's a post-credit scene?" I was like, "Oh, ho, ho, ho,
Yeah,
ho.
same.
There's not just a post-credit scene. There's a post-credit everything."
Yep.
And without this moment, I would have just been left with this sour taste in my mouth, and just leave it to whoever decided to put that in there to be a genius to save this moment. But Boba Fett walks into Jabba's palace, which was the last place anyone knew him to be alive, and Jabba's messenger boy, I don't even know
Oh,
his name.
oh,
Um,
dang it! I know his name and I can't remember, man.
he's sitting there, and he's got his tentacle wrapped around him, and he is fat, man. He has let himself go, and I think that's hilarious because he's just trying to fill the throne that he's sitting on. And Fennec and Boba roll into town, kill a few Gamorreans and a couple randos that are there as like slim guard detail. And the guy's like, "Oh, Boba, so happy to see you, man. We thought you were dead." He's like, "We heard rumors, but like we didn't know." And no talk, nothing. Pacow, you're dead. Done,
Pew!
roasted. You're done. Game over. And Boba just nestles his amazing little tushy right in that throne. And then Fennec is sitting in the background, a la Leia in the gold bikini with a jug of blue booze, just glugging, and just it's a Christmas card right there, man. It
Dude.
is beautiful. It was a moment, and then it says like December 2021,
One. Yeah.
the Book of Boba Fett, and I was giddy as a schoolgirl. I was so excited,
Giddy as a
and
schoolboy.
that was, like Logan said, the best moment of this whole episode. So
Yeah, it really was though. And I again, Boba sitting on that throne. I don't care whose throne it was. First of all, it could have been Palpatine's, and you would be like, well, that doesn't
yeah,
make sense, but I still wouldn't have cared. The way Tamora Morrison played Boba in that moment, sitting on that throne, such a simple moment, was so
it was beautiful.
cool. It was one of the most bad A moments I have ever seen in Star Wars specifically, maybe in general. Like for real. It was just cool, and I can't wait to see all the fan art of it and maybe concept art of it, because it's just cool. I don't know. There's something about somebody sitting on a throne like they own that thing. It's just cool to see. Um I actually have one more pro to this episode. I had like 3 bullet points for pros, and we already talked about the other ones. Um at the very beginning of this episode, when they all take down that shuttle with Dr. Pershing on it, and there's that Imperial tool.
Yeah,
There's a little
yeah,
back and forth between Cara Dune and that Imperial tool, and it brought some perspective for me on Cara Dune's character, which I loved. Now, people, if you haven't noticed, Cara Dune has this like rebellion tattoo symbol, very small, like a teardrop almost under her left eye, I think it is. Um, and I always thought like, oh, maybe it's just a rebellion thing. She was part of the rebellion. It's just, I don't know, something to remember it by. Military sort of tattoo. But the Imperial guy says that he notices her tattoo, and he knows instantly that it's because of the demolition of the entire planet of Alderaan, and that it is a symbol that people who were from Alderaan and who were in the rebellion who survived, they got those tattoos in
yeah.
remembrance of Alderaan, and I thought that was really cool. Now, my friend pointed this part out too, which I didn't think about. It also has Cara Dune, when like he's trying to get at her, get at her emotions. She fires back at him. But he is now in defense of, or he's like saying like, you blew up our Death Star. Like, and she was like, yeah, which one? Like,
Yeah.
total bomb on him, first of all, right? Like, ooh, 2 of them. And he's like, it doesn't matter. There were millions of people on there. Like, it kind of made the Empire human, and the stormtrooper specifically human. Like, millions of people did die. Like it or not, that's pretty messed up too in itself.
Well, it's like in How I Met Your Mother. I don't know how many people here
Oh
have
yeah.
watched that, but there's a moment where Lily realizes that stormtroopers aren't robots and that they're people, and she's like, "Those were people on there." And Marshall goes, "It was called the Death Star, baby. They knew what they were signing up
Yeah.
for." And and it's funny, but there's a reality there of these are people, you know, being from the United States, we have been in our fair share of wars, but I mean, you hear of the tragedy of losing armed servicemen and women from your perspective of your own country, but I think it very seldom do people consider the lives lost on the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
Um,
There's 2
even
sides.
and that's right, and that's the rebels thought the Empire was the most evil entity that ever existed. Were they right? Yes. Does that mean that millions of people needed to die on the Death Star? No, but
It seemed like the only solution. And
yes.
yeah,
So it was an interesting moment. I agree with you.
yeah, I liked it. I thought that was a really cool touch. Now, I won't get into this just because of our technical difficulties, and we're gonna wrap up this episode. But I will get to it in another episode. I have a saved conversation. I'll call it a conversation that I had on Instagram with a fanboy on Instagram. And one main point I wanted to say is that the in the post I commented on, first of all, basically said that this episode was basically the top-notch content of Star Wars like ever created, and that
What?
yeah, and that like, and he did say, and I'm gonna give my benefit to the doubt of this kid who commented back at me. This wasn't his post, but he commented back at me. He took what I said out of context. I wasn't saying that the Mandalorian as a whole is not that great, because I love this show. I love the Mandalorian. Do I agree with how they went in the second season? Not at all. But that's not for me to decide, and it's still a super fun show. And maybe that's what he thought I was saying. But what I was saying is that it was a complete exaggeration to say that this episode was like top-notch episode. Like it wasn't. It could have been way better. I felt like if this is the end of the story, that was
Right.
dumb.
Even just compared with the rest of the season.
Yeah, like I even said to myself, like, even if I did love seeing Luke and I liked Luke as a character, this I would still admit, like, okay, it wasn't that good. It wasn't the top notch of Star Wars content. It would have been better if I liked Luke, but guess what? I don't like Luke at all. And so I will say that
Fun fact. I don't like Luke.
yeah, at all. I think I have one toy of Luke or two, but it's like one's a collector's thing and one. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I want to read the conversation because I felt like I handled it well, and I think it's kind of funny too. But I just want people to know, like, first of all, this guy said that I'm not a diehard fan of Star Wars. He doesn't even know me. I never said he wasn't a diehard fan of Star Wars. But I just want people to know you can be a diehard fan of something even though you're criticizing it. Because to me, it's like, no, you just want it to be better. It doesn't mean you think it's crap and that you hate it. It just means you want it to be better. So why can't you be a diehard fan? I don't know. That's my perspective on that.
I'm an LA Kings hockey fan, and they were
Oof.
the last team in the league last year. Does that mean that I stopped being their fan? No. Does that mean that I can't criticize them even though I'm a diehard Kings fan? No, they're terrible.
Yeah.
Like if people like me, the fans, don't criticize things, it doesn't ever get any better. They need to hear a negative voice, and they need to not have an echo chamber to live into. Because if they live in this echo chamber that they just hear, you're great, you're awesome, everything you do is great, we're gonna get mediocre crap.
Mm-hmm.
So what they need is a negative voice every once in a while that says, you know what, you could have done this better. Every single person on the planet knows that the people they value the most are the people that challenge them. Not constantly. Constant challenge is hard, but the people that go, you know what, that kind of sucked, you should do that better, and you go, wow, I respect your opinion, thank you, I will do better. Like, that's how you go through life in general. So saying that someone's not a fan of something because they have the balls to say that they have an issue with something is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard in my life. And I wish we had the time to go in this more in depth. But
We will another
holy
time.
freaking Hades.
Yeah, man.
That makes me mad.
Oh, dude. I mean, I handled it really well, I feel like. We'll read the whole thing. I took screenshots of the whole conversation. We'll go
You
into
just gotta
it.
send them to me now so I can get ready for it.
Oh, yeah, I will.
I'm heated, man. I want to know.
But yeah, we'll get into it maybe in the next episode. A little announcement. We'll wrap this up now. A little announcement. So this will be our last episode of the year. I'm sorry Dan wasn't here to share that with us. I mean, it was a pretty negative vibes.
That's all right.
Thing. But we will be back after the new year. I have a couple friends that are going to come on the show. Dan came up with a pretty solid topic to talk about. It'll be good. It'll be fun. Yeah, we're just going to take a break, mainly because we got holidays to go to, and we're going to be busy. We're not going to have our microphones and all that stuff. So, but yes, thank you for listening. this was a fun episode, even though it was kind of negative. I enjoyed it. Again, if you haven't watched The Mandalorian, go and watch it. Even though I've been kind of talking crap this whole
Oh, yeah.
season, go watch it. It is super great.
Yeah.
Awesome show. There's just some hiccups, but if you're not a diehard fan of Star Wars, it really doesn't matter. It's just an awesome show. But we love it. We really love Star Wars, and we can't wait for the new year, 2021. It's gonna be our year, man. It's gonna be our year. Again, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Anchor. We post them on YouTube. There's no video. It's just you listen to it. We have a Discord. It's fun. We post memes on it. The link to join our Discord is in our bio on Instagram. On Instagram, we really just post when our episodes come out. If it ever comes to a point where we need to post more, we will. We'll try at least. But really, thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you come the new year. Bye.
Bye.
The Council of Nerds.